alien distress signal called Earth's Deathworlders to battle. The emergency beacon screamed across the void of space, its desperate signal piercing through the cosmic darkness like a dying star's final breath. Communications specialist Zeth-9 of the Kepler Research Station felt his crystalline heart skip a beat as the message decoded on his holographic display. "No, no, no," he whispered, his translucent fingers trembling over the controls. The signal was coming from mining platform Zirion 12, a massive operation in the outer spiral arm that housed nearly 3 million souls from 17 different species. The message was fragmentary, broken by interference and terror. Under attack, unknown hostiles, shields failing, estimated survival time, 4 standard cycles. Please, anyone, help us. But it wasn't just any attack. The readings showed energy signatures that made Zeth-9's species-specific fear glands activate involuntarily. These weren't pirates or raiders. The energy patterns matched something from the Forbidden Archives, something that hadn't been seen for over 2 centuries. The Devourers had returned. Zeth-9's tentacles shook as he transmitted the message to the Galactic Defense Council headquarters on Nexus Prime. Within minutes, his communicator buzzed with an encrypted response from Fleet Admiral Corax. "Confirmed receipt of distress signal," came the Admiral's gravelly voice through the translator. "Zeth-9, how certain are you of the energy signatures?" "Admiral, I've run the analysis 17 times. The quantum decay patterns, the gravitational distortions, the way space itself seems to weep around them. It's definitely the Devourers." A long silence followed. Admiral Corax was old enough to remember the stories, old enough to know what those energy signatures meant. The Devourers were nightmare incarnate ancient beings that consumed not just matter and energy, but the very fabric of reality itself. They left nothing behind but empty space where worlds once spun. "Admiral," Zeth-9 ventured, "I'm here. Send the data to Council immediately. Emergency session, Code Crimson." The Council chambers on Nexus Prime had not seen such chaos in 3 centuries. Representatives from 47 species sat in their various atmospheric bubbles, translation devices buzzing with panicked conversations. The holographic display at the center showed the approaching threat. Massive dark shapes moving through space like living shadows, each one the size of a small moon. Fleet Admiral Corax stood at the podium, his forearms spread wide for attention. "Honored representatives, the situation is dire. Mining platform Zirion 12 is under attack by entities we hope never to see again. The Devourers have emerged from whatever dark corner of the universe they've been hiding in." Representative Thala of the Peaceful Etherean Collective raised her melodic voice. "Admiral, surely our combined fleets can handle any threat. We have ships, weapons, shields." "No," Corax interrupted, his voice heavy with the weight of ancient knowledge. "You don't understand. The last time the Devourers appeared, we threw everything at them. Entire star fleets, planet-killer weapons, reality bombs that could crack space-time itself. Nothing worked. They consumed it all and grew stronger." The chamber fell silent except for the nervous clicking of insectoid delegates and the worried harmonics of the crystalline union. "Then what do you propose?" asked Council Prime Vexus, his ancient voice carrying the authority of centuries. Admiral Corax activated a new display, showing a small yellow star at the edge of known space. A single red warning symbol marked it as quarantine territory. "We contact the humans." The reaction was immediate and violent. Several representatives actually fled their seats. Others began making their species equivalent of prayers or protective gestures. The Etherean representative fainted, her delicate form crumpling in her anti-gravity chair. "You cannot be serious," gasped Representative Drax of the Armor's Worlds. "Humans are from a class 3 death world. They're barely contained savages who wage war for entertainment. They wage war to win," Admiral Corax replied firmly. "And right now, that's exactly what we need." The Admiral changed the display to show Earth's solar system, its quarantine barriers clearly visible as swirling energy fields designed to keep something in rather than keep something out. The humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every single day for millions of years. Ice ages that would freeze our world solid, volcanic eruptions that would sterilize continents, earthquakes that could shatter moons, and predators that make our worst nightmares look like pets. They survived it all by becoming the most adaptable, most stubborn, most viciously effective warriors the galaxy has ever produced. Representative Ilex of the Harmony World spoke up, her voice quavering. But Admiral, the quarantine exists for good reason. Every report from the few diplomatic contacts we've had describes humans as unnaturally violent. They fight each other constantly. They take pleasure in conflict. They actually seek out danger for fun. Exactly, Admiral Korak said. And they also do something else that no other species in the galaxy does. With such consistency, they protect the innocent, even at cost to themselves. Every diplomatic report mentions the same strange human behavior. They will risk everything to help strangers. Council Prime Vexus leaned forward in his hover chair. Admiral, even if we wanted to contact them, breaking the quarantine would require unanimous council approval. And we have less than 4 cycles before Zerion 12 falls. Admiral Korak smiled grimly. I've already prepared the message. It only requires your authorization to send. The debate raged for 2 precious hours. Representatives argued about the risks of letting humanity loose in the galaxy. They questioned whether humans even had the technology to reach Zerion 12 in time. And they wondered if these Deathworlders would even care about saving alien lives. Finally, Representative Gorix of the Industrial Consortium spoke what many were thinking. What if we're wrong? What if releasing humanity is worse than letting the Devourers consume Zerion 12? Admiral Korax looked around the chamber, at the frightened faces of beings from worlds where the worst predator might be a herbivore with mild territorial instincts. Then we'll face that problem when it comes. But right now, 3 million innocent beings are about to die, and the only species in the galaxy that might be able to stop it is sitting behind a quarantine barrier, probably wondering why we've been so quiet for the past 3 years. The vote was close. 24 in favor, 23 opposed. Council Prime Vexus cast the deciding vote. Motion passed. Admiral Korak, send your message to Sol System. May whatever gods we worship have mercy on us all. Admiral Korax activated his communicator with steady hands. Communications, this is Admiral Korax. Transmit package Omega to Sol System. All frequencies, maximum power. Mark it as priority Alpha Prime. Package Omega transmitted, Admiral. Estimated delivery time, 3 standard hours. As the message raced across space toward a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, the beings who had sent it could only wait and hope that the most dangerous species in the galaxy would prove to be their salvation. On mining platform Zerion 12, the shields flickered and failed as massive, dark shapes pressed closer. The Devourers had begun their feeding, and reality itself was starting to unravel around the station. Time was running out. Captain Sarah Chen was reviewing supply manifests in the Mars Defense Command when the alien signal arrived. She had been enjoying her morning coffee, real coffee, not the synthetic stuff, when Lieutenant Rodriguez burst into her office without knocking. Captain, you need to see this immediately, Rodriguez said, his face pale with excitement and fear. The message appeared on her holographic display in perfect English, though the translation algorithms had clearly worked overtime to convert it from something utterly alien. Asterisk to the humans of Sol System. We are the Galactic Defense Council. We need your help urgently. A mining platform called Zerion 12 is under attack by entities called the Devourers. Nearly 3 million innocent beings will die within 4 standard cycles. Our fleets cannot reach them in time. You are our only hope. Please help us save them. Sarah read the message 3 times, her coffee growing cold as the implications sank in. Humanity had known about alien life for only 5 years, ever since the first diplomatic contact. Most humans assumed they were being studied and judged by some vast galactic civilization. Now that civilization was asking for help. Get me Admiral Harrison immediately, Sarah ordered, and patch this through to Luna Base, Europa Station, and the Titan Mining Collective. Everyone needs to see this. Within 30 minutes, Admiral James Harrison was on the screen from Earth Command, his weathered face serious as he studied the alien message. He had commanded fleets in the worst conflicts of the last 50 years, but this was something entirely new. How do we know this is genuine? He asked. Same quantum encryption as the diplomatic contacts, Sarah replied. The translation matrices match perfectly. This is real, sir. Admiral Harrison was quiet for a long moment, then made the decision that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Activate the 5th Expeditionary Force. I want Colonel Marcus Kane and his best soldiers ready to deploy in 6 hours. Sir, with respect, we're talking about fighting unknown aliens in deep space. We have no idea what these devourers are capable of. Admiral Harrison smiled with the cold confidence that had made him legendary among Earth's military forces. Colonel, for 5 years we've wondered what humanity's role would be in a galaxy full of alien civilizations. Looks like our role is exactly what it's always been. We fight the monsters so others can sleep safely. Colonel Marcus Kane received the call while training with his soldiers in the asteroid belt. He was a lean, scarred veteran of the Martian Independence War and the Jupiter mining conflicts, known for his tactical brilliance and his absolute refusal to leave anyone behind. When Admiral Harrison explained the situation, Kane's response was immediate. How many ships can you give me? 4 heavy cruisers, the Indomitable, the Fury, the Retribution, and the Vengeance. Full crews and support staff. I need 300 Marines, best of the best, loaded for heavy combat and extended operations. You'll have whatever you need. How long to reach this Sirian 12? Kane checked the star charts that had come with the alien message. 42 hours at maximum hyperspace velocity. We can make it with time to spare. As news of the alien distress call spread through humanity's military networks, something extraordinary happened. Volunteers stepped forward from every branch of service, every colony, every station in the solar system. The asteroid miners offered their fastest ships and their most experienced pilots. The lunar factories began working triple shifts to produce specialized ammunition. Europa Station cleared its launch schedules to give the rescue fleet priority. Private Lisa Park volunteered, even though she had just returned from a grueling mission in the outer system. Sergeant David Kim canceled his retirement ceremony to join the mission. Lieutenant Commander Ana Vasquez transferred from the Jupiter Defense Force just to be part of the rescue effort. Why? Asked a news reporter who had somehow learned about the mission. These are aliens you've never met, fighting enemies you know nothing about. Colonel Kane, loading equipment onto the Indomitable, paused to answer. Because they asked for help. Because 3 million innocent people are about to die. Because that's what humans do. The 4 ships launched from Mars orbit exactly 6 hours after the distress call arrived. They carried 300 of humanity's finest warriors, enough firepower to level a small city, and medical supplies configured for unknown alien physiologies. As the fleet entered hyperspace, the Marines prepared for battle in ways the Galactic Council could never have imagined. They studied the limited data about the Devourers, looking for weaknesses that might not exist. They practiced close-quarters combat in zero gravity, in crushing gravity, in toxic atmospheres. They modified their weapons based on pure speculation about what might work against reality-eating entities. Sergeant Kim gathered his squad around a table covered with experimental weapons. Listen up. These Devourers apparently consume matter, energy, and space itself. Standard tactics might not apply. So what makes us different from these other aliens? Asked Private Torres. Kim smiled grimly. We grew up on Earth. We've been fighting impossible odds since before we could walk. These council species come from safe, peaceful worlds. They've never had to adapt or die. Private Jackson, who had survived the hellish conditions of Venus mining operations, laughed bitterly. Reality-eating monsters? Sounds like Tuesday in the sulfur clouds? The Marines laughed, but they understood the truth behind the joke. Earth had forged them through millions of years of constant danger. Every human carried the genetic memory of surviving ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, and countless predators that had tried to make them extinct. They weren't just soldiers. They were evolution's answer to a universe that never stopped trying to kill its children. Colonel Kane walked through his ships, checking on his people. He found them calm, focused, and deadly. Some wrote letters home, others cleaned weapons or studied tactical manuals. A few were actually sleeping, something that impressed him greatly. "Nervous, sir?" asked his second-in-command, Major Jennifer Walsh. Kane shook his head. "The aliens chose well. If anyone can save those colonists, it's us." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zarian 12 system to find an ongoing apocalypse. The mining platform hung in space like a dying star, its massive structure partially dissolved at the edges, where reality itself seemed to be fraying. Around it, the Devourers fed. They were unlike anything in human records or nightmares. Each entity was roughly the size of a battleship, but they weren't built like any ship humans had ever seen. They appeared to be made of living darkness that rippled and flowed like water, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light, sound, and even the concept of space itself. "Mother of God," whispered Communications Officer Lee from the bridge of the Indomitable. "Look what they're doing to space-time." Where the Devourers fed, space itself was disappearing. Not just the matter or energy, but the very fabric of reality. Stars behind them vanished, not because they were blocked, but because the space they had occupied simply ceased to exist. "Devourer entities confirmed," reported Major Walsh, studying the tactical display. 12 primary entities, unknown number of smaller forms. They're literally eating reality itself. Colonel Kane studied the horrific scene and felt something that should have been fear transform into cold tactical anger. "Time to surface?" "Drop pods can reach the platform in 12 minutes, replied the pilot. "But sir, the space around that station is unstable. Reality keeps fluctuating." Kane activated the ship's communication system. "All Marines, this is Kane. We're going into a situation none of us have trained for. These things eat reality itself, and they've been terrorizing the galaxy for centuries. But they've never faced humans before. Show them what Earth teaches its children about fighting impossible odds." The Marines moved to their drop pods with practiced efficiency. Each pod held 15 soldiers and enough equipment for extended combat in hostile environments. The pods were designed to punch through any defense and deliver troops directly into battle zones. Sergeant Kim strapped himself into his pod and checked his squad one final time. Private Torres carried experimental reality anchors designed by Earth's best physicists. Private Jackson had medical kits configured for 17 different alien physiologies. Private Martinez handled the new quantum disruptors that might work against entities that existed partially outside normal spacetime. "Remember," Kim told his squad over the comm system, "these things have been killing entire civilizations. But every monster has a weakness. Our job is to find it and exploit it." The drop began without ceremony. 30 pods launched from the 4 ships, carrying 300 Marines directly into a space where the laws of physics were suggestions rather than rules. As they fell towards Zarian 12, the Marines could see the true horror of what they faced. Entire sections of the mining platform were simply gone, not destroyed, but edited out of existence. The remaining sections flickered between dimensions, as reality tried to collapse and rebuild itself simultaneously. Kim felt his pod shake as something that wasn't quite matter and wasn't quite energy brushed against it. Through the small viewport, he saw a devourer approaching a writhing mass of living darkness, with appendages that existed in too many dimensions to properly perceive. "Contact in 40 seconds, announced the pod's pilot, his voice tight with professional calm, masking absolute terror. Kim and his squad braced for impact. The pod hit what remained of the platform's docking bay, bounced twice, and came to rest in a corridor where the lights flickered between existing and not existing. The doors blew open immediately. Kim was the first human to set foot on an alien structure under attack by reality-eating monsters. He expected to feel historic about the moment. Instead, he felt only the familiar calm that came before battle. "Move out," he ordered. "Torres, start anchoring reality around our position. Jackson, find survivors. Martinez, set up the quantum disruptors." Around the platform, other Marine squads were landing and immediately adapting to conditions that should have been impossible. The Devourers had been feeding unopposed for so long that they seemed genuinely confused by the arrival of creatures that not only refused to be consumed, but actively fought back. Private Torres found himself face to face with a smaller devourer in what had once been the platform's central corridor. The entity reached toward him with appendages that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, trying to unmake him from reality itself. Torres didn't hesitate. He activated his reality anchor, creating a bubble of stable space-time around himself, then opened fire with weapons that had been theoretical until 3 days ago. The quantum bullets struck the devourer and actually hurt it the first time anything had successfully damaged one of these entities in over 2 centuries. The devourer made a sound like mathematics screaming and tried to retreat into higher dimensions. Torres followed, using his reality anchor to force the entity back into normal space where human weapons could reach it. "First kill confirmed," Torres reported calmly over the radio. "These things can be hurt. Reality anchors work. Quantum weapons are effective." Private Jackson found a group of alien survivors in what remained of the platform's medical bay. They were a mix of species he had never seen before, some crystalline, some insectoid, some that appeared to be living plants. All of them showed the peculiar injuries that came from partial contact with reality-eating entities. "It's okay," Jackson said gently, though he knew they probably couldn't understand English. He showed them his medical kit and began treating wounds that technically shouldn't exist, injuries to the concept of existence itself. The aliens slowly realized that this terrifying creature from a death world was actually trying to save them. One of the crystalline beings managed to activate a translation device. You came," it whispered in broken standard Galactic. "The Council. They actually sent help." "We're humans," Jackson replied as he worked. "We don't abandon people who need help." Sergeant Kim led his squad through the platform's main hub, where 3 devourers were methodically unmaking everything they could reach. When they detected the Marines, they turned with predatory attention that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Form up," Kim shouted. "Standard suppression pattern. Remember, these things have never faced coordinated resistance." The Marines moved into a defensive formation they had practiced in Earth's most hostile environments. When the first devourer reached them, it found not scattered prey, but a coordinated team of apex predators. Kim rolled under appendages that tried to erase him from existence, came up behind the entity, and planted a reality anchor directly against its core. The anchor forced the devourer into normal spacetime, where Torres hit it with quantum disruptors, while Martinez attached experimental charges designed to detonate across multiple dimensions. The devourer died messily, its destruction causing ripples in reality that made nearby space stutter and reform. These things hunt alone, Kim realized. They're not used to fighting coordinated opponents. Around the platform, similar scenes were playing out. Marines who had trained to fight in Earth's most impossible conditions were adapting their skills to combat that existed partially outside reality. They used the platform's structure for cover, set traps in unstable spacetime, and coordinated attacks that confused entities that had never encountered organized resistance. Colonel Kane landed with the command squad near the platform's control center, where he found the station commander, a tall, multi-armed being with skin like polished metal, trying to maintain life support systems that kept flickering in and out of existence. "Colonel Kane, Earth Marines," he introduced himself. "We received your distress call." The alien stared at him with eyes like faceted gems. "You came. The Council actually contacted the Deathworlders. How many devourers are we facing?" 12 large entities, estimated 40 smaller ones, Kane replied. "What can you tell us about their capabilities?" "They consume everything: matter, energy, space itself. Nothing has ever been able to stop them. They've been the galaxy's nightmare for over 2 centuries. Kane smiled with cold confidence. "Well, they haven't met humans before. Time to change that." He activated his communicator. "All squads, this is Kane. We have confirmed hostiles throughout the platform. Begin systematic clearing operations. Remember, these things have been terrorizing the galaxy because nobody has ever fought back effectively. Time to show them what organized resistance looks like." The Marines began hunting the devourers through the platform with methodical precision. What had started as a desperate rescue mission was becoming something unprecedented. For the first time in centuries, the Devourers were learning what it felt like to be outfought. 6 hours after the Marines landed, the battle for Zarian 12 had changed completely. The entities that had been systematically consuming reality found themselves being systematically eliminated by creatures they couldn't understand or predict. Sergeant Kim crouched in the platform's maintenance shafts with his squad, studying a map of the station's quantum infrastructure. The narrow passages were perfect for the kind of warfare humans had perfected in Earth's cities, caves, and space stations. "The Devourers avoid confined spaces," he reported to Colonel Kane. "They prefer areas where they can manipulate reality freely." "Good," Kane replied. "Confined spaces are our specialty. Use the shafts to move unseen and set up ambush points." Kim smiled. Every human soldier had trained in close-quarters battle. The cramped maintenance shafts were like home to them. For entities used to feeding in open space, the shafts were a nightmare. Private Martinez had discovered something crucial about Devourer behavior. The entities communicated through quantum fluctuations that existed across multiple dimensions. When one found particularly rich feeding, it sent signals that called others to join. "Sir, I think I can disrupt their communication," Martinez reported to Major Walsh. "If we can jam their quantum signals, we might be able to confuse them." Walsh, a veteran of the brutal Titan mining wars, nodded immediately. "Do it. Take whatever you need." Martinez worked with the platform's quantum engineers, brilliant aliens who understood physics in ways humans were just beginning to grasp. Together, they created a jamming system that sent false signals across dimensional boundaries. "Testing quantum disruption now," Martinez announced. He activated the device near a group of 3 Devourers. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The entities began attacking each other, confused by signals that told them their packmates were actually competing food sources. They literally began consuming each other in a feeding frenzy that defied several laws of physics. "It works!" Martinez shouted. "They're turning on each other." Colonel Kane watched the chaos from the command center and felt the familiar satisfaction of a plan coming together. This was exactly the kind of adaptive warfare that humans excelled at. Earth had taught them to study their enemies, learn their weaknesses, and exploit every possible advantage. "All squads, we have a new weapon," Kane announced. "Martinez's team has developed quantum confusion devices. Use them to split up large groups of Devourers." The battle began shifting decisively in humanity's favor. Marines used the maintenance shafts to move unseen around the platform, set traps in areas where reality was unstable, and coordinated attacks that the Devourers couldn't counter or understand. Private Jackson made another crucial discovery while treating wounded Devourers that had been abandoned by their fellows. Unlike humans who never left their wounded behind, these entities simply discarded anything that couldn't contribute to the feeding. "This one is trying to communicate," Jackson reported. He was treating a Devourer that had lost several dimensional appendages to marine weapons. "It's making patterns in the quantum foam that might be language." Major Walsh, who had studied xenolinguistics during the first diplomatic contacts, joined him immediately. "Can you understand what it's saying?" Jackson listened to the patterns in space-time itself, watching how the wounded entity manipulated reality in subtle ways. I think it's trying to tell us something about their origin. They weren't always like this." Colonel Kane arrived to study the wounded Devourer. As a soldier, he had learned to recognize desperation in many different forms. This entity wasn't just injured, it was afraid. "Get our best linguist down here," Kane ordered. "I want to know what this thing is trying to tell us." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Okafor had been studying quantum linguistics since first contact with the Galactic Council. She arrived with portable reality stabilizers and began working with the wounded Devourer, learning to interpret communication that existed across multiple dimensions. After 2 hours of careful work, Okafor began to understand the entity's message. Her face went pale as she translated. "Colonel, this creature is trying to tell us about their origin. The Devourers weren't always reality-eating monsters. They were something else before. Something happened to them." Kane felt a chill that had nothing to do with the platform's failing environmental systems. "What happened?" Okafor listened to more quantum whispers from the wounded entity. According to this, the Devourers were once a peaceful species called the Architects. They built wonders throughout the galaxy cities that existed in multiple dimensions, art that could be experienced across space-time itself. What changed them? Something they call the First Hunger. According to this creature, the Architects discovered a way to consume reality itself as an energy source. It was supposed to be carefully controlled, used only for their greatest projects. But the hunger grew. It consumed their civilization from within, turning them into what they are now. The revelation changed everything Cain thought he knew about the enemy. The Devourers weren't just monsters, they were victims of their own power, addicted to consuming reality in ways that had destroyed their original nature. "Sir, we have movement," reported the communications officer. "The remaining Devourer entities are retreating from the platform." Cain looked up at the displays, showing the massive entities pulling back from Zirion 12. The creatures that had been the galaxy's nightmare for centuries were actually retreating from a fight. They're learning, Cain realized. For the first time in their existence, they've encountered effective resistance. They're adapting. The wounded Devourer made more patterns in the quantum foam, its message becoming more urgent. "What's it saying now?" Cain asked. Okafor's translation device worked frantically. "It's warning us. The retreat isn't permanent. The Devourers are going back to gather reinforcements, more of their kind, entities that have been sleeping in deep space. It says they're going to bring enough force to consume this entire sector of the galaxy." Cain felt the familiar weight of responsibility that came with being humanity's shield against the darkness. The immediate battle was won, but the real war was just beginning. "How long do we have?" "According to this, maybe 50 standard cycles before they return in force." Cain activated his communicator. "All squads, continue securing the platform. Medical teams, begin treating all survivors, alien and Devourer alike. We've got intelligence that suggests this fight is far from over." As his Marines worked to save lives and gather information, Cain stared out at the stars and thought about what they had learned. Humanity had come to rescue aliens from monsters, only to discover that the monsters were themselves victims of something even more terrible. The Devourers were retreating, but they would return, and when they did, they would bring enough force to threaten every living thing in this part of the galaxy. But Cain wasn't afraid. Earth had prepared humanity for exactly this kind of impossible challenge. They would find a way to fight, to adapt, to survive. They always did. The galaxy's nightmare had just met Earth's children, and for the first time in centuries, the nightmare was learning what it felt like to be afraid. The Galactic Council fleet arrived at Zirion 12, expecting to find either a destroyed platform or a desperate last stand still in progress. Instead, they found human Marines working alongside alien survivors to repair systems and treat the wounded, including several captured Devourers that were being held in quantum containment fields. Admiral Korax stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. The red dots that had marked Devourer positions were gone. The blue dots showing human forces were spread across the platform in organized patterns that spoke of complete tactical control. "This is impossible," whispered his tactical officer. "The humans have been here less than 15 hours. How did they not just survive contact with the Devourers, but actually capture some alive?" Before Admiral Korax could respond, a communication came through from the platform. "Galactic Council vessel, this is Colonel Cain of the 5th Expeditionary Force. Zirion 12 is secure. Requesting permission to come aboard with critical intelligence about the Devourer threat." 2 hours later, Colonel Cain sat in the Council ship's briefing room with Admiral Korax and several other senior officers. Between them lay a portable quantum translator connected to one of the captured Devourers. "Admiral, what I'm about to tell you will change everything the galaxy knows about the Devourers," Cain began. "These entities aren't natural predators. They're victims of their own technology, addicted to consuming reality itself." Admiral Korax's compound eyes widened in shock. "Victims? Colonel, these creatures have destroyed hundreds of worlds." Cain activated the quantum translator. The captured devourer began making patterns in space-time itself, and the device converted them into speech that could be understood by normal minds. "Long ago, we were called the architects," the translated voice said, heavy with the weight of eons. "We built wonders that spanned dimensions, cities that existed in 7 layers of reality simultaneously, art that could be experienced across space and time itself." The council officers exchanged stunned glances. This was not the mindless monster they had expected. The devourer continued, "We discovered how to consume the fabric of reality itself as an energy source. At first, we were careful, using it only for our greatest projects. But the hunger grew. It changed us, consumed us from within. We became what you see now, slaves to an addiction that destroyed our civilization and turned us into the galaxy's nightmare." Admiral Corax leaned forward. "How long ago did this happen?" "Over 3,000 of your years. We have been trying to control the hunger ever since. But every time we feed, we lose more of what we once were." Colonel Kane spoke up. "Admiral, there's more. According to our prisoner, the devourers are retreating to gather reinforcements. They're going to return with enough force to consume this entire sector." "How much time do we have?" 50 standard cycles, maybe less." Admiral Corax felt the weight of galactic civilizations settling on his shoulders. "Colonel, your species has accomplished something unprecedented. You've not only fought the devourers successfully, but captured them alive and extracted intelligence that we've needed for centuries." "How?" Kane smiled grimly. "Admiral, humans evolved on a world that never stopped trying to kill us. We learned to adapt, to fight, to find weaknesses in seemingly invincible enemies. The devourers are dangerous, but they've been feeding on helpless prey for so long that they forgot how to handle real resistance. Your Marines use tactics we've never seen," Admiral Corax admitted, "fighting in confined spaces, using quantum jamming, treating the wounded enemy to extract intelligence." "That's what humans do," Kane replied. "We adapt to any situation, exploit every advantage, and never give up. Earth taught us that the only truly unwinnable fight is the one you don't show up for." Admiral Corax activated his communication system. "All Council vessels, prepare to escort the human fleet back to Nexus Prime. Priority Alpha Prime authorization. We need to convene an emergency session immediately." As the combined fleet prepared to leave Zarian 12, Kane found himself thinking about the implications of what they had learned. The galaxy faced an enemy that was both monster and victim, addicted to consuming reality itself and growing stronger with every feeding. But for the first time in 3,000 years, someone had figured out how to fight back effectively. The devourers were returning with reinforcements, but they would find a galaxy that was no longer defenseless. Private Jackson approached with a final report. "Sir, the alien survivors want to know if we're going to stay to protect them." Kane looked around at the repaired platform where human Marines worked alongside 17 different alien species to rebuild what the devourers had tried to consume. "Tell them we have to go prepare for a bigger fight," Kane said. "But also tell them that humanity doesn't abandon its friends. When the devourers return, they'll find us waiting." As the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, the captured devourer continued to provide intelligence about its species' history and capabilities. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy had hope of not just surviving the devourer threat, but actually ending it. Colonel Kane watched the stars stream past and thought about the distress signal that had started this adventure. The Galactic Council had called for humanity's help against an impossible enemy. They had no idea they were summoning the galaxy's future guardians. Earth's children were going to war again, but this time they wouldn't just be fighting for survival. They would be fighting to cure a 3,000-year-old addiction that had turned a peaceful species into reality-eating monsters. The devourers were about to learn what humans had been teaching impossible enemies for millions of years. There is no prey that cannot become the hunter, no addiction that cannot be overcome, and no darkness that cannot be fought. The galaxy's long nightmare was about to end, and it would end because someone had finally called Earth's Deathworlders to battle.